Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video of the Small Urban Greens Homestead. And today's video is a little bit different. Today I've decided to do a Q&A. So in my comments and my DMs, I normally get loads of questions, and I've taken the top 5 questions and decided to answer it. So the first question I get asked a lot is why even start raised beds? And that's a very good question. So personally, I started raised beds because I learned in the first year of homesteading that I have really bad soil conditions, and I didn't know about soil conditions right in the beginning of my journey. I had to learn the hard way, and that meant me losing my crops, losing my tamarella tree due to root rot, and that's where my journey basically began. So we have clay soil, and if you know about clay soil, it is dense clay soil. Clay soil is awful. Water just sits on top of it, and there is absolutely no drainage. So we had to go to raised beds, which was the only way I was going to be able to get that soil control. And I don't regret it. I never looked back and thought of doing it any other way. Also, where my garden is situated, I have 3 neighbors. We are in a cul-de-sac, and when it rains, all the water from the 3 houses all gather in our garden, and my garden literally gets flooded. And because we have clay soil, it just sits on top of the grass. So we have moved to raised beds, which also gives me control of my soil. And when it rains a lot and that nutrients gets washed away, I'm able to actually put it back into the soil, because if it was in the ground, it would literally get washed away. So by using raised beds, it helps me control the soil quality, and also it improves the drainage. Question number 2. Will it cost a lot of money to fill up raised beds? So that's a good question as well. I use something called the lasagna method, and if you look at my other videos that I have made, I talk about how you can actually utilize your materials from the garden in order to fill up your raised beds. So filling up raised beds, I would normally start off with some cardboard at the bottom. You can use cardboard boxes from eggs. I'll then start with maybe grass cuttings, some fallen leaves, dried leaves, anything from your garden. So if you're doing a nice big trimming, put that into your raised beds. So I literally will just then repeat that process. I'll go cardboard, some more wood cuttings or branches, leaves, grass clippings, until it's at a point where I can start filling it up with soil. So I personally will use the compost that I make at home. I have 3 compost bays, and it basically sits for the whole of winter. And then when spring, summer comes, I'll then add my compost to the raised beds with some fertilizer. I will then go and put some bought store compost and some topsoil, some perlite for that drainage that you want. And that is how I fill up my raised beds. It saves on cost, and also I get to use the material at home to fill up my raised beds. Got a little Mickey here that decided to say hello. So question number 3 is, how can you maximize the space in your raised beds? That's also a fantastic question, because a lot of people like myself, when I started, I literally just had everything everywhere. And for example, I had tomatoes grown with spinach and things that just got lost in my raised beds. When I did start to clean out my raised beds, I realized that I had certain crops hidden underneath certain plants because I forgot that I planted there. So I maximize my space by using something called like companion planting. So read up on that and give that a try. Like tomatoes go well with basil, because basil repel insects, and also basil doesn't grow too big. So tomatoes grow up, and I normally have tomatoes that are trailing. So at the bottom, I would just put a whole bunch of basils, and I would also use things that are lower in growing. So maybe some herbs at the bottom. I also do things like spinach. So I'll have a raised bed full of spinach, but in between the spinach, I will put things like carrots and beets. I would put things like radish because they grow under the soil, and that's really, really good to have together to just maximize your space in the raised bed. So give that a shot. Okay, question number 4 was, what type of raised beds should one use? This depends on your climate. So I'm in Johannesburg, and it doesn't really get too hot here. Actually, summer came and went. I don't even remember having a summer. So there is 3 different types of raised beds that we're going to talk about. And the first one obviously is my wooden raised beds. So what are the pros? The pros are it's affordable and it has that natural look. And the con is that it won't last forever. So we have discovered that it takes around about 5 years for it to start rotting. And it's been nearly 5 years of me doing the homestead, and we are starting to see some rot in our raised beds. Stay until the end of the video because there is going to be some upgrades in the homestead in the future, and I will let you know what we are going to be replacing the wooden raised beds with. And then number 2 is your metal raised beds. So the pros of the metal raised beds is that it does last a little bit longer, and I think it's pest resistant. And the con is that it's heat. It absorbs a lot of heat depending on what kind of metal raised beds. So you get 2 types of metal raised beds. One that has that black coating on the inside, which is the better one. And then you've got the one that hasn't got the black coating, which I think is the one that actually pulls in the heat. And then the last raised beds is your brick raised beds. So the pros of that is that it is durable and it retains the heat. The con is very expensive. So these are the 3 different types of raised beds that you can go for. And it doesn't matter which one you actually use, they will all do the same job. I have started from the bottom by doing it in the ground and learning the hard way because I didn't know about soil. And when I decided on what kind of raised beds I was going to use, I went with the affordable one until I had more knowledge and was able to upgrade. And the wooden raised beds have really done very well for me, and I don't regret it. It looks very nice, and I'm going to actually miss them when we do slowly get rid of them. So in the future, we are deciding to go with brick, and we are going to start from, I think, this side, going backwards and slowly start replacing all the wooden raised beds with the brick. And I think it's going to look very nice. We have big plans during winter to try and upgrade a little bit of the homestead. So the last question. Question number 5. Do you have to top up your raised beds? And yes, you actually do, because what happens is that over time, with rain and watering your garden, you will start losing all that nutrients in the soil. So you have to do a top up. And it doesn't mean that you have to take everything out. It just means that you just have to refresh the soil. So what I personally do is that I top it up and I fill it up with some fresh compost, some slow release pellets, some topsoil, some perlite, and I just give that a mix together and you're great to go. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, a little bit different to all our other videos. Comment below what you would like me to actually discuss next, and let's see if we can make it happen. Don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps, so I would appreciate that. Subscribe, and then also hit that notification button so that you know when the next video is out. Let's learn together as we grow together, and I will see you in the next video.